So we're continuing on day 2 of your spacing. So the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to go up to your stroke and you're going to make sure that you have no stroke selected. And then on your fill, we're going to change the color to this color code, 29ABE2. You're then going to get your ellipse tool, hold shift to make a perfect circle, and we're going to put it right above the earth, maybe a little bit smaller than that. Okay. Now we want to change the color code. Make sure you don't have anything selected. Change the color code to 77B1FF and zoom in. You're going to get your ellipse tool and you're going to create an oval on this area of the moon. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create this crescent shape here that's going to be a little bit darker, and it's going to make it look like a crater. It's going to have more of a three-dimensional effect and make it stick out a little bit better. So you're going to make 2 copies of that shape, using Alt and drag. You're going to change the color of one of those, and it doesn't really matter the color. You're going to make sure that you arrange bring to front, and then drag that, drag this up to your other crescent or your other oval so that you get kind of this crescent shape on the outside. That blue area is what we're looking for. And we're going to cut the other part off. So we're going to select both of those shapes. Make sure you don't have anything else selected. And you're going to go to Window, Pathfinder, minus front. And now that's going to leave us with that crescent shape that we wanted. That's going to go on the side of that other oval. So with that selected, change your color code to 0071BC. And then we are going to select and move that crescent to the top left side. Make sure that your other oval, the lighter one, is in front of the darker crescent. So that way it makes it look a little bit better. I'm actually going to move this over just a little bit more with my arrow keys. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to select both of those using the Shift key. And I want to group those together, so I'm going to right click, group, and now it becomes one object, and I can use Alt to click and drag a couple of copies. So some of these I want to decrease the size or make them a little smaller, maybe make some of them round, because that's when it's going to give a little bit better look. So I'm going to Alt drag a couple of shapes around to kind of make this look more like a moon, and I just mess with them until I feel like I'm happy with the way that it looks. Nope, that needs to be smaller, not bigger. Perfect. It's looking pretty good. So the last thing that we need to do to this is we're going to create that crescent shadow, and we need to zoom out so we can kind of see what we're doing a little bit better. You're going to use the Alt drag to drag 2 copies of that circle. Change the color of one of them. Make sure that you right click, arrange, bring to front, and you're going to adjust it so that you see that blue crescent at the bottom right. Hold Shift to select both of your objects. Make sure that nothing else is selected. Go to Window, Pathfinder, minus front. That's going to give us that crescent. So this one's going to be a little bit different. With the light blue, you have to actually change the blending mode on it, and you can find the blending mode in your transparency window. It should normally say normal, but you're going to change it to multiply, which is going to make it a little bit darker. And then we're going to change the opacity to, yes, make sure it's on multiply. Change your opacity to about 30%. Make sure you right click arrange bring to front before moving that over onto the moon for a cool little shadow. Okay. Next, we're going to make sure that our fill is selected in front because we're going to change the fill color. And that color is going to be FEF8A6. It's going to be a pale yellow. We're going to grab our ellipse tool and create a bigger perfect circle. Hold shift, remember, up in the top corner. Now you want to make sure that you have plenty of room over here on the right because we're going to put some rings over there and we don't want to run out of space. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is so you want to make sure that you do not have a fill, and you want to change the color of your stroke because the color of your stroke determines the color of your brush, whether it's your paintbrush or your blob brush. We're going to grab the blob brush. We're going to go down to the bottom of our toolbar and select the stroke so that it's in the front and it knows that that's what we're working with is the color of the stroke. And then we're going to type in this color code. It's going to be a light lilac color. It's E7DFFE. You get that light purple. And now what we're going to do is, again, make sure you have your blob brush, not your paintbrush, but your blob brush. We're going to make some quick strokes that start inside and then go out, or outside and go in from the opposite direction. You do want them to extend out into the blue because we're going to use a tool to cut those so that it makes it look more rounded. So just make a couple of lines that go out into the blue. Use your selection tool and you're going to hold shift to select your planet and all of your paint lines. Hold shift to select all of those because we're going to cut those off. We're going to use that shape builder tool, and when you hold alt, that brings up subtract, so you can just click to get rid of the outlying areas that we no longer need. It makes it look more rounded, makes it look like the lines are going around instead of just lying on top of it. Okay, so next we are going to create some rings, and to do that we need to have no fill. And we want our stroke selected, so you got to go down to the bottom of your toolbar and select your stroke. And you're going to type in this color code, ECBFFE. And it's going to be a light pink color. We're going to get our ellipse tool. Hold shift and create a perfect circle over here just out in the open. And with that selected, we're going to use that offset path tool. And we learned about that in our first robot assignment, where we made his eyes and mouth. So you go to Object, Path, Offset Path. And we're going to offset this path by 2 millimeters. So type in 2 mm and press OK or hit Enter. And we're going to do that same thing 3 times. Object, Path, Offset Path, 2 mm, Enter. Same thing. Object, Path, Offset Path, 2 mm, Enter. And that's going to give us a total of 4 rings, which is exactly what we want. You're going to hold shift to select each of those 4 rings. Make sure you do not have the background selected. And then you're going to right click on top of those and go to group them together. Now we're going to be able to use our bounding box, that's a vocabulary word, to pull that to the right and up a little bit. to flatten it out. And then I like to rotate it just slightly by that corner. And now our planet has some rings. But we do have one issue, and that is that the rings go on top of the planet. There's the top area of the rings that are not completely on the outside, and so we need to get rid of those lines up here so it looks like the rings go all the way around. So to do that, you're going to select the rings and select your planet. Holding the shift key, select both of those objects, the planet and the rings. Then you're going to get your shape builder tool. Hold Alt to subtract, and when you hover over, you'll see that the lines turn red. And when the lines turn red while you're holding Alt, you want to click so that you can delete those lines and get rid of them. And then you have the illusion that the rings go all the way around instead of just being on top of the planet itself. The last thing that we need to do is create the shadow on this one. So you're going to Alt drag 2 copies, change the color of one, drag it over, make sure you move it to the front, arrange, bring to front. You're going to see that yellow crescent down there at the bottom right. That's what we want. Hold Shift to select both objects, and then use your window Pathfinder minus front tools to be left with that crescent shape. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because it's a yellow color, so we still need to make it multiply blending mode. But the opacity, 30% is not going to be enough opacity or to bring down the opacity. We have to increase it to about 50 or 60%, so it makes it a little bit darker so you can see the yellow. Make sure you arrange bring to front, and then you can move it up and over the top of your planet. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. That's it for today. On day 3, we'll add some stars and some galaxy dust and one more planet.